potrzebne złoto, żeby uaktywnić sobie nic. Patrz, ale ten kolor jest patrz, to po 30 metrów wysokości postaci, czyli chodzące, czyli Anunnaki. I to Peru, teraz ostatnie zdjęcia.
Goliaty?
Tłumaczą dlaczego.
Goliaty?
Wszystko złoto chodzi. Monotoniczne złoto. No, 8 ma molekuł w takiej cząstce złota. Nas pokazał.
Uranium-235 is produced. For the use as intelligent slaves, the Anunnaki took a man, let's call him Adamski, and took out a part of a rib. This is because the rib is a part of the human body that can be removed without causing too much damage, and because the rib contains bone marrow, it's a perfect source for DNA. The Anunnaki modified the DNA for a better manipulation of the humans and implanted it into a woman. Let's call her Mulva. Mulva then had children with Adamski, and their children were, just like Mulva, genetically modified. These humans worked for the Anunnaki, but not a lot of humans knew about the Anunnaki. Then, for some reason, the Anunnaki disappeared. An interesting detail is that the symbol for human DNA resembles the word Yah,
symbol, symbol DNA to jest Bóg w starych nazwach. Teraz przychodzą z powrotem do Anunnaki, te potwory, o te 30 metrów wysokości. O, słońce jest złotem, sun is gold.
Gdy słońce było Bogiem, Kosidowski napisał.
Patrz, cena złota. Jak wzrasta. Nagle. Widzisz, dlaczego takie
From the 1700s, gold has been the key boy on reserve against national currency.
Dlaczego taka
Few have ever
sytuacja
understood
ze
why.
złotem jest?
Gold is bulky, heavy, and not especially rare when compared, for example, with certain gemstones. It has nevertheless taken prime position as a financially underpinning substance. The reason is because from the most ancient of times, gold has had a perceived value beyond that of currency wealth. A metaphysical and scientific value, the secrets of which have been lost but were destined to one day return. This has happened with the rediscovered science of monatomic high-spin metallurgy, the ability to transmute noble metallic elements into a single atom, superconductive, anti-gravitational state. During the course of David Hudson's research concerning orbitally rearranged monatomic elements in the latter 1990s, the medical fraternity began to take a keen interest in the potential use of ORMES for cancer treatment. Journals such as Platinum Metals Review and Scientific American had reported how monatomic platinum group metals will resonate with the foreign body cells, causing the DNA to relax and become corrected.
Science is in an interesting period right now. It's actually got to the stage where it's moving at a truly incredible rate. And never before that I remember day-to-day discoveries. Week to week was something, month to month was pretty average, but day-to-day now, science is changing. Scientists say there's nothing that we're working on that seems to follow the rules and the laws that we were dealing with yesterday. New things are coming. So even the most notable researchers and scientists and writers in the mainstream frontliner are now sounding more like science fiction writers.
What I am saying is that the vast majority of people is being controlled by the established upper class. I know this is like the plot of a bad movie, but stay with me for a minute. Anti-gravity exists. The ability for everyone to be a genius exists. Aliens exist. And much more efficient ways of producing energy exist. For example, the mighty engine, which produces the same amount of energy as a normal engine, but only using 5% of the fuel a normal engine uses. Or the PAP engine, which, without fuel, only driven by the power of zero-point energy and a small amount of noble gases, can deliver 500 horsepower for a period of 10 years. Or the Maternita machine of the Maternita commune, which has delivered 3 to 4 kilowatts out of thin air for the last 20 years. What would be the consequences for the upper class if they lose their monopolistic knowledge? What would happen to them if people would know about the secrets they're holding for us?
About a month ago, we did a major story. Here it is, in the Trends Journal. The thorium alternative. You know how they're screaming about Iran is going to have a nuclear facility, and from that they could make, with that depleted, with the uranium, they could turn it into weapons. Well, here's the story. When they began nuclear power, back in the late 50s and 60s, they had two alternatives to go to: uranium or thorium. With uranium, the waste byproduct, the feedstock, could be used to make nuclear weapons. Now, those old enough to remember, that was during the height of the Cold War, when the imbeciles had you hiding under desks as a little kid, or putting your hands in
the uranium-based systems.
That's right. So they really, by going with thorium, you can't use it to make the waste product. You can't use to make a nuclear weapon. So, of course, back in the 60s, when the whole world was, the Cold War was going on, they wanted to make nuclear weapons. Well, now in China, in India, in Brazil, in the Czech Republic, they're all developing nuclear power plants with the eye toward thorium. So we can all chill out now if Iran simply goes with thorium rather than nuclear. Is it ready to go? No, but it's almost ready to go. So if the United States, for example, that just spent $1 trillion fighting an immoral war, killing 1 million people, killing 5,000 of our people, and wounding mentally and physically another couple of 100,000, and destroying an entire country, would help Iran go thorium, as we should also be doing with our nuclear power plants. The psychopaths, the Netanyahus, the Obamas.
If I don't need any more gasoline, what would happen? If I don't need any more electricity or gas, what would happen? If I don't need any more medicines from the pharmaceutical industry, what would happen? In order to ensure their powers, the upper class, some call them the Illuminati, handles a strict agenda. The agenda has the aim to prepare the world for world domination, beginning in the US and Europe. According to conspiracy theorists around the world, this is what they are doing as preparation. By the way, these people are extremely smart and fanatic, extremely rich, and they have tried it before. Then they were called the Nazis. Although what you are going to see and hear sounds very peculiar, remember that a lot of people, for instance, ex-personnel of the US and UK armed forces, have been brutally murdered for making their information public. Let's begin with 9/11, but first, a little history. What the Second World War did for the US is that it gave the country such an economic lead that it could easily grow more comfortable in its already powerful role. The industry of war gave everybody jobs, and therefore everybody could start consuming. Marshall aid gave Europe the economic impulse it needed. In other words, war leads to flourishing economies and leaps forward in technology. The process of transformation, even if it brings revolutionary change, is likely to be a long one, aside from some catastrophic catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor. These are the words of a neocon think tank whose members count people like Dick Cheney, Wolfowitz, and Donald Rumsfeld. What it says is that America needs a war to transform into its next shape, and 9/11 is our new Pearl Harbor.
to są te szkielety tych kolosów, widzisz?
In the manipulation of people, one of the strongest weapons is to make people believe someone else did it. What I'm trying to say is that the US government is trying to make the people believe Osama did it. But did Osama do it? Did you know that 6 weeks before the WTC towers collapsed, the owner had a new insurance policy made up, ensuring that the owner, if the towers would collapse due to a terrorist attack, would receive the amount of $3.5 billion. The owner, because 2 towers went down, tried to claim 2 times $3.5 billion, but only received 2.2. What happened to building number 7?
So we all have bodies, but we don't just have physical bodies, we have light bodies. And just as we feed our physical bodies, they say, we have to feed our light bodies so that they will be nurtured and grow in the same way. They have to be as fulfilled as the physical body. They call the light body the calf. Well, it's interesting because scientists in recent times have actually called this material the light of life. But it resonates with DNA on the same frequency, the light wave.
Our DNA is in fact a vibrating light wave, an extension of our light bodies, and it must be kept and nurtured just as we do our physical bodies. To those suffering from illness and have only been offered pharmaceutical drugs to aid in your recovery, or to those who simply wish to learn more of the secrets of alchemy and our relationship to the divine frequencies, observed in sacred geometry, cymatics, and magnetism, the very source that drives the cause and rhythms of the universe. I implore you to look within yourselves to the truths presented here, and join us on the scientific rediscovery of a lifetime.